Hey guys, it's Aman
and Christina
from Our Rich Journey.
We are going to have some fun today in this video because we are outside in Lisbon, Portugal, and we want to show you our 5 favorite neighborhoods to live in Lisbon. We get this question all the time. People are always asking us what are the best neighborhoods here. So in this video, we are going to take you out throughout the city here in Lisbon, and we are going to show you the 5 favorite neighborhoods on our list to live in Lisbon, Portugal.
Now, we're not just gonna show you these neighborhoods. No, we are too analytical for that. If you've been keeping up with our channel, you know that we started a real estate investing series here in Portugal. And as a part of this series, we are giving you guys food for thought. And so as we go through each one of these neighborhoods, we have developed a list of criteria to help you evaluate what is a good neighborhood. And some of the things that we're gonna be talking about is the quality of housing, how much housing costs to rent and to buy. We're gonna be talking about transportation. We are gonna talk about the vibe of the neighborhood and much more. So we hope that by the end of this video, it gives you enough food for thought to help you decide on the best neighborhood that you can move to here in Lisbon.
So if you're new to our channel is all about making money, saving money, and investing money on the road to financial independence. Aman and I reached financial independence in 8 years. We quit our federal government jobs and we retired. And we retired here in Lisbon, Portugal. So we've been living here in Lisbon for about a year now. So our channel is also about our life here in Lisbon. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe.
So without further ado, let's get into our favorite neighborhoods. And we're gonna start with the one we're sitting in right now, Saldanha.
Welcome to Lisbon. I hope you enjoy it.
So let's first talk about Saldanha in general. It's considered the commercial center of Lisbon, but it feels like a community with all of its little back streets. It's relatively modern compared to other parts of the city with its newer buildings and wide streets, and it also feels really sophisticated. It has a ton of shops and some of the best restaurants in the city. It's also not a touristy part of town, which is nice. It's mainly locals and people that come here to work in the area. So there's also quite a few kids in the neighborhood, and it's also very pet friendly. Our first criteria is housing. So Saldanha has some of the best quality housing in the city, but it's also some of the most expensive. A studio or a 1-bedroom here in Saldanha starts at around 150,000 euro, and prices can go higher than 3 million euro. It's really hard to find a house or a duplex in this area, so it's basically mainly all apartments, and they're usually in buildings with 3 to 6 stories. We think you can find a really awesome 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom bath here for between 400 and 500,000 euro. Now, if you're looking to rent in Saldanha, Saldanha is also relatively expensive to the rest of the city, but prices have been coming down. There are some amazing flats that you can get for less than 2,000 euro a month. The next criteria that we have is the vibe of the neighborhood. People here in Saldanha are awesome. There's so much diversity. There's young people, old people, family, singles. It is a very vibrant neighborhood, and there's some of the friendliest people in all of the city. There's a lot of professionals that live in this neighborhood, and some of the wealthiest people in Lisbon also live here, but they also live side by side with working class people, so it feels like a very diverse neighborhood. You can people watch all day, and it's super clean and well maintained in Saldanha. The next criteria is neighborhood amenities and activities. Here in Saldanha, it seems like there is a grocery store on every corner. There are so many amenities. You can find doctor offices, dentist offices, and Saldanha is known for having some of the best restaurants in all of Portugal. If you like any type of food, you can very likely find it here in Saldanha. The next criteria is transportation. Here in Saldanha, you have a connection to several different metro lines, and it makes it very easy to get around in this neighborhood. In Saldanha, there's a metro line that connects directly to the airport, and you can also access the freeway very easily by car here in Saldanha. And our last criteria is walkability. So if you notice, if you've been to Lisbon, some of the neighborhoods are super hilly and some are flat. Saldanha is a very flat neighborhood. They have wide sidewalks, which make it really easy to maneuver around in this neighborhood. So that's our analysis based off of our 5 criterias for looking at neighborhoods, but we also have some highlights. So for Saldana, some of the highlights are all of the grocery stores. Like I mentioned, you can find them everywhere in Saldana, but they also have organic grocery stores. So if you have certain allergies or you have a special diet, you can likely find a grocery store that caters to that here in Saldana. They also have tons of shops, stores, and restaurants. And one thing we really love about Saldana are all of the small little beer kiosks that they have throughout this neighborhood. At the end of the day, or even during the day, you can sit down at these beer kiosks. You can have a nice beer, a nice glass of wine, and sit down and have some hors d'oeuvres.
So this is our next neighborhood. It is Campo de Arrique, and I'm standing right in front of the cathedral that centers this neighborhood. On the other side of this cathedral is the Mercado, and this Mercado is pretty cool because there's a bunch of different restaurants. We're gonna take you guys into it now, but if you come early enough in the day, you can get fresh fish here.
So let's start off with some general information about Campo de Arrique. It's located in what's known as the historic center of the city. It's just north of Estrella. The vibe here in Campo de Arrique is definitely one of historical awe, but at the same time, there's very trendy areas to this neighborhood, and it has an incredibly kid-friendly vibe to it. It's actually noted as one of the most kid and family-friendly neighborhoods in all of Lisbon. And because of everything Campo de Arrique has to offer, it's sometimes referred to as the city within the city. Let's talk about housing in Campo de Arrique. While you can find some houses in this neighborhood, most of the housing is also apartments. Because of the historical richness of this neighborhood, there are a lot of very old apartments here. But at the same time, there's plenty of modern, renovated options for housing too. Apartments in this neighborhood tend to be bigger on average, with really beautiful tall ceilings that tend to enhance the space. In terms of buying a home in this neighborhood, home prices vary widely. You can purchase an apartment here for less than 100,000 euro, but at the same time, there are also apartments in this area that go for more than 3 million euro. But despite this range, you can generally find a nice 1 to 3 bedroom apartment here for under 200,000 euro in this neighborhood. If you're looking to rent, you can find a nice 1 bedroom apartment for 800 euro or less, and you can find a nice 3 bedroom apartment for 1,500 euro or less. Because this isn't a touristy neighborhood, most of the homes for rent in this neighborhood are long-term rentals. And remember, almost all rentals are negotiable when it comes to listing prices. Let's talk about the vibe here in Campo de Arrique. It has a very kid and family-friendly vibe to it. Like I said already, it is actually noted as one of the most kid and family-friendly neighborhoods in Lisbon. So if you have a family and you have kids and you're looking for your kids to integrate into the city and meet new friends, Campo de Arrique is a great neighborhood to live in. Next are the amenities here in Campo de Arrique. Like we mentioned, this neighborhood is really considered a city within a city because it has every imaginable amenity that you could want. Here in Campo de Arrique, there are 2 tram lines that go through this neighborhood, tram line 25 and 28. One thing to note about this neighborhood is that there is not a very close metro line. So if you are looking to live here, you're gonna have to find transportation, and it will either likely be through the tram or a bus or walking, or of course, if you have a car, you'd have to have your own personal car to get around. So for us, probably the lack of the nearby metro station is the biggest drawback. There's also one thing about this neighborhood is that it is underneath the flight line. So you're gonna have planes flying back and forth over certain areas of the housing, so that's something to keep in mind. Our last criteria is walkability. And like I said, you can either find a neighborhood that's hilly or flat. Campo de Arrique is very flat, which makes it a very walkable neighborhood.
So we're here in our next neighborhood, Principal Real. And the first thing you'll notice are the amazing views and architecture in this neighborhood.
Let's talk a little bit about Principal Real. It is really considered a postcard neighborhood for Lisbon. In the southern part of the city, it's very hilly, so there are a lot of really nice views. And it can be called an upscale area known for its 19th century mansions. It has such beautiful traditional architecture here in this neighborhood. The streetcars also run through this neighborhood, Even though this is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Lisbon, a lot of renovation has taken place. It is really a popular neighborhood. Let's talk about housing here in Príncipe Real. The quality and the prices for housing are really all over the place. You can find a very small studio here for less than 100,000 euro, or you can buy a mansion that can go up to $6 million. And of course, that's a really big range, but prices we've noticed are coming down and places are also sitting on the market for longer. So you can really find a nice place here for about 500,000 euro. And if you're looking to rent, you can generally find a nice place for a little under 2,000 euro a month here. Now, one thing to be careful is that when you're looking for a place, you need to make sure that you don't sign up for anything sight unseen. Because in Lisbon, especially the older parts, your neighbors really matter. A lot of the older buildings may not have that same infrastructure to help with the sound. And so if you have loud neighbors, you want to be able to check out that site or check out the apartment and really get a sense of the noise that you might be hearing from your neighbors. And when I say neighbors, I'm not just saying neighbors as in families, I'm also talking about neighbors in terms of buildings. What is located next to your building? Are you next to a bar? Are you next to a loud restaurant? These are all things you want to check out before you rent or buy a place here in Lisbon. Let's talk about the vibe in this neighborhood. It is a completely trendy and chic type of neighborhood. There's not a lot of kids in this part of Lisbon, and there's actually not a lot of families either. This neighborhood is comprised mainly of single professionals and expats. If you like going out to bars and cafes, this is a great neighborhood to be. Because in terms of amenities, you can find tons of different bars and cafes in this area, and surprisingly, there is also a lot of open space. In terms of transportation, in this neighborhood, you're mainly gonna have to get by bus or car. The metro isn't far, but it's also not close in this area. So you're either gonna be walking or you're gonna be driving, but parking, keep in mind, can be difficult to find in this neighborhood. If you live in this neighborhood, you'll notice that the sidewalks are really small here, and there's also a ton of hills, so you really have to be in shape to manage all of those hills. I think you need good shoes in this neighborhood, and Aman and I have actually slipped a couple of times on the cobblestone when it's wet, so just be careful of that if you're looking at this neighborhood.
So we are in Arios, our next favorite neighborhood. Now Arios is a very big area, but we're gonna focus on the area that borders Saldana, and we're gonna take you through this neighborhood and show you some of the things that we like the most about it.
So let's talk about Arios. It borders Saldana, and even though it's close to Saldana, it has a totally different vibe. It's really diverse in people from ethnicity to income, and the cost to live in Arios is lower than Saldana also. It's a steal for everything you can get in this neighborhood. There's also some universities nearby, so you'll also see a lot of the younger population here, but we still see families. Let's talk about housing here. Housing can be older in this area of town. To buy, it starts at about 107,000 euro right now, but we have also seen it for lower, and of course, all the prices are negotiable. But prices can get as high as 3 million in this neighborhood too. There's not many single family homes or townhouses, but you can find an awesome place here to buy for around 300,000 euro. And if you're looking to rent, prices are also coming down in rent here as well. You can rent a studio or a one-bedroom for about 650 euro a month, but you can also find a nice 2 or 3 bedroom for less than 1,000 euro here in this neighborhood. The vibe here in this neighborhood is exceptionally cool. And we're not kidding. This neighborhood was actually named the coolest neighborhood in the world. So if you live here in this neighborhood, you can tell everyone that you live in a pretty cool neighborhood. There are tons of amenities and other activities here. There's plenty of places to eat and drink, and there are also some really great open spaces, so you can always grab some food and you can go and have a picnic. One of the highlights is the transportation, which is great here. And there are also plenty of metro stations throughout this neighborhood. If you live here, you will notice that walking is very easy. Everything in this neighborhood tends to be very flat, the sidewalks are very wide, and so it makes it very easy to maneuver around here.
So this is our last and final stop here in Lapa. Now Lapa is a very hilly neighborhood. So we are going to be showing you around this neighborhood, and we are going to get exhausted doing it because of some of these hills. But sit back and let us show you Lapa.
Let's talk a little bit about Lapa in general. It's really this old traditional neighborhood. It has beautiful architecture. There's tiles on the buildings. There's small streets that you could really get lost in. There is a lot of charm to this neighborhood. Lapa is really one of the hilliest neighborhoods in Lisbon, and it's located in the southwest part of the city. You can spend a lot of time exploring this part of the city on foot and get a good workout at the same time. We really like it because of its nice charm. When you're looking at housing in Lapa, you'll notice that housing is typically generally old. In fact, there are a lot of buildings that are abandoned in Lapa. They're just left alone. So as for price, you can buy a studio costing around €100, and of course, with the ranges, you can buy something in Lapa that goes up to €5 million. Now, even though there's a wide range of pricing when it comes to real estate here, we found that you can generally find a nice place to buy here in Lapa for around 400 to 500,000 euro. But you can also get a fixer-upper here, so you can buy something close to 200,000 euro and fix it up here in Lapa. If you're looking to rent a place in Lapa, rentals are more interesting in this area, again because of the wide range of prices. You can find something as low as 600 euro here, or you can find something as much as 3,000 euro. But for us, when we were doing our search, we could generally find a really nice place for about 1,700 euro. But here in Lapa, you have to make sure that the building has an elevator, especially if you're at the top floors. Let's talk about the vibe here in Lapa. We would say out of all of the 5 neighborhoods that we highlighted, the vibe here in Lapa would be the slowest. We think this may be because of the hills and all the energy that you have to put into walking throughout this neighborhood, but in general, it's a really slow vibe. It's very relaxing, and you feel very relaxed when you're here in this neighborhood. Let's talk amenities here. So the amenities are really very similar to other neighborhoods here in Lisbon. There's a lot of shops here, there's a lot of cafes, but again, here in Lapa, they also have a really big park. So you've got that really big open space here in the middle of this neighborhood. Transportation here in Lapa can get a bit tricky because if you have a car, parking is a little bit difficult to find here. But you can get around through bus because there are a lot of bus lines here, and there's also a trolley that runs throughout Lapa, which makes things really convenient. There is a metro line, but it is further out. It's much further out, actually. So the closest metro line is Rato, so you have to keep that in mind because if you're traveling by metro, you are likely going to have to walk a pretty far distance from the metro line to your house. In terms of walkability, Lapa is the least walkable neighborhood of all the 5 neighborhoods that we highlighted. And this is really because of the very, very many hills in this neighborhood, but they also have really narrow streets that make it hard to maneuver even if you're driving in traffic. But we have found that once you find an open spot with restaurants and parks, it's easier to maneuver and you can find those flatter pieces of land. If you visit this neighborhood, make sure that you check out the Jardim de Estrela. It's this really large garden/park that you can really spend all day in. Another thing is you have to ride a trolley through Lapa. It is really a special experience, especially because it takes you throughout all of the hills in Lapa and you get that really amazing Lisbon experience.
So we're back here in Saldanha, and so we hope we've given you some good food for thought with these 5 neighborhoods. One thing you may have noticed is that we didn't mention some of the really popular neighborhoods that tourists come to when they visit Lisbon. We didn't mention Chiado or Alfama. Now those are great neighborhoods, but from our perspective, we've enjoyed living outside of those tourist destinations, and we encourage you to visit much more of the city. There are some amazing neighborhoods. There's the 5 that we mentioned, and maybe if you have a recommendation for other areas, leave that in the comments below. And as usual, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.